future of storytelling. Before we do the future, let's talk about what is never going to change about storytelling.
What's never going to change? Obviously, I think good stories are never going to change. The need for people to gather together and exchange their stories and to talk about the things that feel universal. The idea that we all feel a compelling need to watch stories, to tell stories, to share stories. Sort of the gathering around the campfire to discuss the things that tell each one of us that we are not alone in the world. Those things to me are never going to change. Like that essence of storytelling is never going to change.
Okay. In preparation for this conversation, I checked in with Susan Lyne, who was running ABC Entertainment when you were working on Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
And she said that there was this indelible memory she had of your casting process, where without discussing it with any of the executives, you got people coming in to read for your scripts, and every one of them was the full range of humanity. You did not type anyone in any way, and that it was completely surprising. So she said, in addition to retraining the studio executives, you also, she feels, and I think this is, I agree, retrained the expectations of the American TV audience. So what else does the audience not yet realize that it needs?
What else do they not yet realize? Well, I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near there yet. I mean, we're still in a place in which, you know, we're far, far behind what looks like the real world in actuality. Like, I wasn't bringing in a bunch of actors who looked very different from one another simply because I was trying to make a point, and I wasn't trying to do anything special. It never occurred to me that that was new, different, or weird. I just brought in actors because I thought they were interesting. And to me, the idea that it was completely surprising to everybody, I didn't know that for a while. I just thought, these are the actors I want to see play these parts. I want to see what they'll look like if they read. We'll see what happens. So I think the interesting thing that happens is that when you look at the world through another lens, when you're not the person normally in charge of things, it just comes out a different way.
Mm-hmm. So you have this big machine that you run as a titan. As you know, last year when she gave her talk, she's a titan. So what do you think is going to happen as we go on? There's a huge amount of money involved in producing these shows. While the tools of making stories have gotten greatly democratized, there's still this large distribution, people who rent, networks who rent the audience to advertisers and make it all pay. How do you see the business model changing now that anyone can be a storyteller?
I think it's changing every day. I mean, the rapid change that's happening is amazing. And I feel, the panic is palpable. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's kind of exciting. The idea that there's sort of an equalizer happening that sort of means that anybody can make something is wonderful. I think there's something scary in the idea that you can't find the good work now. There's so much work out there. I think there's something like 417 dramas on television right now at any given time in any given place. But you can't find them. You can't find the good ones. So there's a lot of bad stuff out there because everybody can make something. It's like if everybody painted a painting. There's not that many good painters. So, but finding the good stories the good shows is harder and harder and harder, because if you have one tiny show over here on AM, and one tiny show over here, over there, finding where they are becomes much harder. Mm-hmm. So I think that ferreting out the gems and finding out who made the great webisode and who made this, think about the poor critics who now are spending 24 hours a day trapped in their homes watching everything. It's not an easy job right now. So the distribution engines are getting, more and more vast, but finding the good programming for everybody in the audience is getting harder. And unlike the news, where everything's getting winnowed down to just who you are, television seems to be getting, and by television I mean anything you can watch television on, shows on, seems to be getting wider and wider and wider. And so anybody's making stories, and the geniuses are sometimes hidden, but it's going to be harder to find. And at some point that will collapse. People keep talking about peak TV. Mm-hmm. I don't know when that's going to happen. I think at some point it'll collapse a little bit and we'll sort of come back together. I don't know if it'll be network television. I don't know if that model is sustainable.
Mm-hmm. What about the model that Amazon and Netflix are throwing a lot of money around right now?
That is true. I think it's an interesting model. I think there's something exciting about it for content creators. I think there's something exciting about it for the world. I think there's something exciting about it. The idea that there are programs now that can be in multiple languages with characters from all over the world that are appealing and come out for everybody at the same time is exciting. Mm-hmm. I think the international sense that television can now take on makes sense to me, that programming can now take on. Television so much is made for, here's our American audience, we make these shows, and then they shove them out into the world and hope for the best, as opposed to really thinking about the fact that America is not it. We love ourselves and everything, but it's not it. And it should be we should be taking into account the fact that there are all of these other places in the world that we should be interested in while we're telling stories. It makes the world smaller. I think it pushes forward the idea that the world is a